Hello, everyone. My guest today is Emeric Ernoult. He started his career in 1996 as a business lawyer in Washington, D.C., and then launched his first startup in France in 2000. After 3 semi-failed SaaS projects in the social media space, he finally got traction with his company Agorapulse, a social media management software launched in 2012. He grew it to $5 million in annual recurring revenue, and it's growing at 80% year over year. Emeric, are you ready to take us to the top?
I am, definitely.
Well, I think you're much cooler as a SaaS CEO than a lawyer, so congratulations.
I think too. Yeah, agreed on that one.
So the company, just to be clear, the revenue number, you finished 2017 at a run rate of about 5 million. Was that accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay. And let's get more of the backstory now. What does the company do and how do you make money? Is it pure SaaS?
It is pure SaaS. It's a social media management software. So most of your listeners will be familiar with Hootsuite. So it's a competitor to Hootsuite and many others. And it's a monthly subscription. RPU is around $145, $50. I have most of my numbers in euros, so I have to make conversion on the go.
You're doing good.
And we've passed 3,000 clients before the end of the year, and so that's where we are.
That's great. So 3,000 paying customers, paying each about $145 a month for about 416 grand in monthly revenue, or a $5 million run rate. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And Emeric, have you bootstrapped the thing, or have you raised capital?
Yeah, we did bootstrap.
Okay, completely bootstrapped. That's incredible. Did you use any debt or no?
We actually used something that a lot of people are using. We had a previous business that was generating some cash, not good, but enough to kind of, fuel the next venture. So we used that cash. We basically stopped working on the old project, and worked on the new one by using the free cash flow we had from the old project, which a lot of agencies do when they start a product, and heard a lot of people on the podcast doing that as well. So you can't start with zero. You got to start with something, especially when you're building a complex SaaS product. Our thing was that.
Were you able, though, so the cap table can get pretty messy if you're transitioning. Were you able to also in that transition clean the cap table somehow, or get early people out, or are they still kind of lingering on the cap table with 2, 3, 4, 5%?
That's a great question. We've been incredibly lucky that the initial shareholders that we had from the previous business eventually got cash problems of their own. And then when they had, we had cash in the bank. So we proposed them an exit, and we basically bought them out, some of them 8, 9 years in. So they've been with us for a long time, super patient and super nice. And we basically bought them for, a good chunk of money based on what they invested initially. They made a huge return, 10x kind of return. But for us at the time when we bought their 3, 4, 5%, it was a great deal based on the ARR we were making at the time. So we were lucky. And
what year was that when you executed that?
Most of them were 2017.
Oh, you executed most of this in just this year, 2017.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay.
We bought them out. We bought the initial business angels that we got in, say, 2002 and 4.
Yep.
We bought them in 2017, and we bought them for, a good price for them, a good multiple that, they didn't become millionaires, but compare, what they invested in the early days compared to what they got back was a pretty good return.
And what did they put in on the early days? Are we talking 100 grand or 10 million?
Yes. No, yeah, less. Some of them were 40, 30, 40,000. Probably the highest was 50,000, and, the 50,000, we bought them out as close to 200,000. So it was a good multiple for them.
Yeah, it makes good sense.
Yeah,
you're looking at this, I imagine I know TechCrunch, as I said, go raise capital and try an IPO, but I'm sitting on 400 grand a month in cash flow top line. If I own the whole thing and have full control, I can just pay myself 200 grand in free cash flow every month, and my wife's going to love me forever.
You're touching on a great point. It all goes back to what's your motivation in life and what you want to build for yourself. When we're young, we usually have big, hairy goals, and we want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. And as you grow up and you're facing the difficulties of launching a business, succeeding in business, and you get something, you start thinking, well, I'm pretty happy with a pretty decent salary and freedom and the ability to lead my life and my business the way I want and still grow and take profit out of that. And Basecamp is a great example of a bootstrap company that got incredibly successful. And there are a lot of others that are not as successful, but still get a lot of cash out of the thing. And more importantly, a lot of fun and pleasure, which I think is the key to everything.
So do you have a co-founder, or are you now the sole person on the cap table?
We're two co-founders, the CTO, Ben, and myself.
Got it. And he's been with you the whole time?
He's been with me the whole time, 17 years. So he's been more patient than my ex-wife.
That's amazing.
Before.
That's funny. So launch date was 2000. Ben's with you from the beginning. Ex-wife left you. Are you're remarried now?
Yeah, sort of. Not married, but we've been together for 10 years and we have a kid. So it's like the same thing. Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. But minus the tax benefits, right? All right.
Well, I don't know if there are any.
Yeah. Okay. That's true. Where are you based? You're overseas?
Right now I'm based in Paris, France. Yeah.
Is that where most of your team is?
No, actually it's only 1/3 of the team. 2/3 of the team is in Ireland, the US, Mexico, Brazil, Slovakia, Malaysia, Philippines, and gosh, must be forgetting.
This is a remote team.
Yeah. It's mostly remote. Yeah. 2/3 of them are remote. The US is the biggest country. I think we have 7 or 8 people there.
And how many people total are on the team?
40.
40 people. Okay, that's pretty significant. 40 people. And help me understand some of the economics here, because last time we talked, man, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago at a conference. And if you don't mind me sharing this, I think it's old enough now. You were expressing concerns about things like churn. So yeah. I assume that was pre-pivot. You pivoted somehow. What is churn today, and how would you drive it down?
It's a very good question. A pivot is something we do all the time. Like these are small, 10% pivot and then 10% and then 10%. You keep adjusting, especially in a fast moving industry such as social media. I think when we talked together 3 years ago, we probably were at 12% net MR churn.
That was the number.
You an idea. And
that was monthly. That was monthly.
That was monthly, yeah, not annual.
Yeah.
Well, remember, we're in the SMB self-service SaaS business, which has monthly churn. You can't totally kill it. It's impossible. I don't know anybody in the SMB space who has no churn or negative churn. Negative churn is for higher paid customers, like enterprise. They have negative churn, of course. Those who get 1 year full contract, 3 year contract, obviously they have negative churn. But those who have monthly and SMB, usually the best churn rate I've ever heard was Constant Contact at 2.5. That's the best I've ever heard. And remember, they sold for 1.4 billion and they have 600,000 customers. So you can make it even with 2,000%.
Yeah, but Emeric, that's still that company. I mean, that they were at, I'd sit on Gail's conference calls. I mean, they would add 60,000 customers in a corner, but they would churn 50,000. So like they churn through the market. And if you look at the PE ratio, what they exited for, it was actually a shitty multiple for a SaaS company.
Yeah. I don't have all their SaaS metrics, and churn is a bad thing overall, and you get to a glass ceiling at some point if you churn every month, of course. So what everybody does is they go at market and they sell to
what are you at today though?
Or enterprise. So we were at 12, we reduced it to 8 the following year, we reduced it to 6 the following year. We're now between 3 and 4, and my personal goal is to get to 2 or below 2 by the end of this year. So by the end of 2018. And you do, so as you can see, it's a slow process.
But Emeric, just to be clear, that's net revenue churn monthly is 4%.
Yeah, net MR churn. Yeah, absolutely.
And is logo churn about the same?
I don't really.
You don't track it?
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, we have the number, but I don't really care because we have a lot of legacy, very small clients who are going away, and we don't really care about them because we really care about the ones that are more in the 99, 199 range, which is kind of a core target. The ones that used to be at the 29 plan that we killed a year ago that are still churning a little every month. It doesn't really matter because it's not the reflection of the business as we've been having it for a year. So I'm really looking at the business we have now, and I'm looking at the cohort we have now, and the cohort we have now are better and better over time as we improve product, client acquisition, and stuff like that.
And give me a sense of growth. You said you finished 2017, so about a month ago, at a $5 million run rate. Where were you at the end of 2016?
We were about 2.5.
Wow. Okay. So you almost doubled year over year. Well, it did double year over year. That's great. That's great. Okay, great. And then break it down some of the other economics for me. With that kind of churn, you obviously can afford to pay a little more to acquire a customer because they're worth more. What are you paying right now to acquire customers?
That's a question I really don't like, the CAC question, because we don't pay to acquire customer. It's all organic. So putting a number there is basically doing hocus pocus magic with all my marketing.
But Emeric, it's not always, because if you do, I'm not talking just direct paid. If you do a fully weighted CAC, you take into account content, marketing, salaries, things like that.
I know. So I'm going to give you the number, but it's meaningless. It's $150, but it's meaningless because I'm actually, not paying for those. And everything I've done that's pay $1 to acquire a customer has failed. So right now, the CAC is interesting when you have a growth lever. So when you can, you look at the CAC and you look at the LTV and you say, okay, I have a growth lever. This is the cost for me. This is the revenue for me over the lifetime of the customer. I can push that lever and acquire more and then raise money and stuff like that. If you have no growth lever, meaning that everything you do is organic, then knowing CAC is not really interesting. Because what are you going to do with that?
Well, so here's a question, right? It's the new year. If content marketing is working and you're calling that organic free growth, why not go hire more content marketers?
Because creating great content is not as easy as creating good Facebook ads or good ads on AdWords.
So you have to pay someone more money.
Well, I would be great. I would love that. The only barrier would pay someone more money. I would pay that person more money right now. You got to find the right people, and that's super hard to find. And then you have to execute the right strategy, which sometimes you succeed at, sometimes you don't. And honestly, content marketing works great, but it works slow. So we have a lot of content marketing experiments that we've started that are starting to produce results, but they will probably be at their full speed in 12 or 18 months.
Name one.
And I cannot. The social media lab that we launched 4 months ago. It's basically us doing tests on social media on any kind of topic you'd like to test on social media. You can give it to us and we're going to test it. We're going to basically spend a week or 2 weeks running the test, gathering the data, writing about the result. We have a podcast about this, and I made the math on the cost of that, and every blog post is costing us around $2,000 to $2,500 per post. Just to give you an idea, on our regular blog post, the one we've been having for 5 years, an average blog post cost us between $200 and $250, so it's like 10 times more. So it's a big bet, and I'm convinced it's going to work out, and I'm convinced it's going to produce results. And we're also leveraging that in a lot of influencers, marketing tactics and stuff. But again, it takes a lot of time, and I'm not patient enough to wait for 18 months from now to grow my business. So we're going to do a lot of other different things, less organic. I mean, more that we have control that can be considered growth levers. Running webinars with partners. We're working on a lot of stuff right now to build a lot more webinars. And I know you're a big fan of webinars, and you've built a great business with webinars. We've never done any of that, and now we're gonna try that. So I wanna get growth levers, and this is gonna be one of them. We're trying AdWords right now, $6,000 a month, just to test it out, just to see if it can work for us. To be honest with you,
are you doing conference sponsorships at all?
This is not something that's very easy to measure, so I don't see that. I don't look at that as a growth lever, and I'm really into finding some growth levers that I can actually push
scale.
Or pull. Scale moving forward. So
good. So CAC right now, it's kind of organic content. It's hard to really know what you can spend to get one. You're testing some $6,000 spend right now on ads to maybe see if you can dial in that CAC ratio, because if you know what that ratio is, it becomes way easier to pour oil on or gas on the fire. So we'll have to have you back on in a year and see how those pan out. But in the meantime, Emeric, let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
My favorite business book is called Extreme Ownership.
That's a good one. I feel like I just finished reading that. I don't know where I said it though. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
Yeah, well, I used to say none, but in the last 3 to 4 months, I've been listening to David Cancel's podcast, Seeking Wisdom, which I enjoy very much and I like very much. So David, if you listen to us, the founder of Drift. And I have to say that, the guy is pretty interesting to follow through the podcast, and is sharing all his wisdom and what he's learning, and it's a very interesting piece.
If Drift and David offers you $15 million for the company, 3x ARR, do you sell?
15? 1.5? No.
50 is more interesting, huh?
50 I'd consider.
Yeah. All right. Number 3.
One thing I learned in my life is never say no to a good check. When I was a business lawyer, I had clients of mine who said no to huge checks because, one guy was proposed 950 million and he said, no, I'll sell for $1 billion. Like, how stupid, dumb is that? And 5 years later, he sold his company that was almost bankrupt for 5 million. And I've seen that many times. And I decided, I thought to myself, if in my life I ever get the opportunity to get a big check, I'll take it, because I've seen too many people say no to a big check and then regret it, bitterly later on. So
Number 3, besides your own, what's your favorite online tool?
My favorite online tool, that's a great question. Slack. It's such a dumb answer. Everybody thinks.
No. All right. And how many hours of sleep are you getting every night?
I'm getting 8.
That's
and
good.
When I can get 9, I'm happy.
That's good. And you said you're in a relationship, 1 kiddo. And Emeric, how old are you?
I'm 45.
45. Last question. Take us back 25 years. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
It's going to be okay. Don't worry.
Coming from the lawyer, it's going to be okay. He turned his nose onto Washington, D.C., left his legal job, launched his company back in 2000, lost his wife, but his co-founder stuck with him all the way through to where they are today with Agorapulse, again, social media management, doing many other things, really focusing on enterprise or more enterprise level accounts, moving away from SMB. They have about 3,000 customers paying about $145 a month, so hitting about a $5 million run rate at the end of 2017, up from a $2.5 million run rate at the end of 2016. So healthy growth. Churn's coming down 4% net revenue churn monthly. Obviously, again, really healthy. His goal is to get that below 2%. CAC, even though he's not really important to him, is about $150. Average customer staying 25 months for a value of about $3,600. His team of 40 spread all across the world. Emeric, thank you so much for taking us to the top.
Thank you, Nathan.